it gets worse, y'all. It's unreal what goes on in the commercial divisions, or actually the bureaucratic divisions of NASA. So anyway, these sting operations were ready to prosecute. NASA walks into the FBI bureau in Washington, D.C., and they just tell everybody, you will squash this investigation. And they were ready to prosecute. And the paper trail goes to the executive office. The investigation was squashed. No charges were filed, all paperwork destroyed. Except for the two agents that did the undercover operations. They were so furious, they quit the bureau. They went to Day One and turned the story over, and they broadcast it. I recorded it, got the tapes. No one has ever brought this up in the national media. But that's a problem in the power that this agency has. They have an oversight committee. Oversight committee is a subcommittee on science and technology, but they do not control NASA. Only this agency has to report to the executive office. There's not another agency in the federal system that has that system set up, which means they are totally uncontrolled. I think you better start paying a lot more attention to NASA. There is a lot more going on that you don't know about. So, yeah, I'll tell you what. There's just so much stuff on this thing. There's the electronic crystals. I built that. Then systems. You ever seen that? Right there is where we come in the factory. Now solar power stations. Okay, how big is the solar power station? Take a picture of downtown Chicago. Takes up that much room. Big. Okay, about 50 miles long. Okay, we'll go about that some other time. Anyway, space hospitals. That's interesting. Okay, you think, boy, this guy is cruel, right? No, I'm going to answer some more questions. This is one program. Let's turn the lights on. I'll go into some other questions. But if you want the rest of this program, which I won't have time. This is an hour and a half program by itself. It's for sale at the back of the room. There are videotapes on it, and you can buy a tape back there. Also, there's a tape on Challenger and Helium-3 and Apollo 13. Also, there's audio tapes back there, and you see the guy in the white shirt that has nice hair, which I don't. So his name's Chris. Now, and that's kind of strange because all my life I've never sold a single tape or book in my life. I'm too busy doing all this. And finally, I wrote a book. It's 456 pages. I hadn't got a publisher yet. I'm still sorting through them. And it's called America's Fall from Space. And it details a lot of stuff like I just told you about NASA and the federal agencies and FBI and all that such. But there's a lot more things there. A lot of this stuff is in it. So if you'd like a copy of my book, I don't have it yet. You fill out a sheet back here, give it back to Chris. We'll put your name on the computer list so we can let you know when the book's coming out and when. Okay? By the way, thanks to Art Bell, and I've gotten so many requests from stuff. The mail person asked me if I was in some kind of solicitation business because I have like 3 bags of mail thrown out in my driveway back in Georgia already. My wife asked me, what are you doing out there? So, I'm going to open it up to questions. There's so much stuff we can go. There's so many different systems. Let's just go into questions, and we'll figure out what we can do. Yes?
If you have any questions, will you come to the back of the room, please?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh,
David?
Yes, okay. I see you back there.
I have a question.
Yeah, I am.
I don't know if you want to share this or not, but you told me a very interesting story of Area 51. I mentioned it to a few people, and they're kind of anxious to hear it if you want to tell it.
Okay. Those of you might have heard me on Art Bell, you know the story. How many did not hear me on Art Bell? Yeah, everybody. Okay, good. It all started back. Do you remember when I built these rockets? Well, I built this electromagnetic fusion containment engine, and it turned out that it worked. And it caused a lot of events to occur in my life. First thing remember the big machine shop I had? Okay, so there's facilities and technicians, and that's capability. This is important. A local congressman, my congressman in that area, Melbourne, Ohio, named John Ashbrook, he supplied the funds for this rocket. It was a lot of money, 7 digits, and that was a lot of money back in 1968. He was able to put it through on a National Science Foundation grant where we could do it under educational systems. So another man was brought into the picture after I requested some fuel rods pellets from Oak Ridge, Tennessee. So all of a sudden the congressman went, "My God, what are you building, a rocket? Well, now you're asking for nuclear fuel? I mean, geez." So he decided to get somebody else in. At that time, this man's parents, if you look in this man's autobiography called Iron Eagle, his name is Curtis Lemay. You ever heard of him? His parents lived in Mount Vernon, Ohio, and my mother was an LPN, and she was their caregiver. So he would be in that town regularly, and he knew my mother. They would talk about all my rockets. So when the congressman came in and asked this Lemay to be a project manager for me, that's what he was. He's civilian. He's former retired 4-star General Curtis Lemay of the United States Air Force, former head of SAC, Strategic Air Command. A little bit of power, y'all. So he also never got over Vietnam. I'm telling you, he's still fighting that battle in his head. But anyhow, he came in, and after they saw the rocket and such, it was funny because when I got to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio, I was living in Mount Vernon. First time Lemay met me, he thought I had a rocket, about this big. And he said, "Oh, you're the kid." Actually, this guy was, it's a long story, and it's all in the book, but you could just imagine, we pull up to a SAC base, Strategic Air Command base. There's this missile on a semi. My dad's driving a semi. I'm riding in the seat next to him. And there's this 1-ton missile sitting on the back of this thing. So we pull up to the gate of a SAC base. The guys in the little scarves and the blue berets and all that, they didn't find this so funny. First thing he did, he come out the gate and jumped up on the running board and said to my dad, "What is this doing out here?" And he said, "My son built it." He says, so the guard looks around my dad, and I'm just saying, I am 17 years old, and I'm going, "Hi." So the guard goes, "Yeah, okay, sure." So he's talking to us. I look in the mirror behind the truck, and here comes all these guys with these MK-16s. And they're surrounding the truck. I said, "Hey, Dad, I think I better lighten up here real quick. This guy's looking serious over here." I said, "Why don't you go into the main headquarters there? I'm supposed to see a man named Curtis Lemay, General Lemay." So the guard goes, "You?" I went, "Yeah." So why don't you bring the truck in the inner fence area? My dad will stay with the truck. My dad's looking at me. And you take you and a couple of your guys, and we'll all go see Lemay. So we did. So I got in there, and we went down the hall and in this big office, and there's Lemay sitting there. They had, I guess, loaned him an office. But he was sitting at the table, and he looks up, and he goes, "Oh, you're the kid that the congressman said you got some rocket you want to shoot." I said, "Sure." So he said, "Well, we'll go out here. This is secured airspace." I said, "Well, I know that, and but there's still another problem, General." He goes, "We'll clear off some cars off there out of the runway area, and we'll shoot you a little rocket off." And I went, "General, I think we got a problem here. I think you better look out that window. I think you got a handle on this." You don't say things like that to Curtis Lemay, I found out. He looks at me, and I thought all the blood in my body went to my feet. He's a big man. He's a big square-built guy. And he goes, "Huh." And he's got this stogie that's doing one of these numbers all the time. And he walks over to the window and grabs a fistful of blades and just boom, like that. That stogie falls out of his mouth. There's this 18-wheel semi with this missile sitting out there. He turns around and looks at me, and he just grinds his stogie out in the teakwood floor. And he goes, "Everybody out of here." And I am the first one to the door. He goes, "Not you, kid. Park it over here." And the colonels and everybody else left. And one full-board colonel saw his little eagles went by, and he said, "Bad mistake, kid." I was going, "Oh, God." So I sit down in this chair. It's one of these big old red leather wingback chairs with the buttons in it. And I thought I was being swallowed by a Venus flytrap. I sit down and started to sink into this thing. And he's sitting down, and he comes around the table. He gets him another stogie. He's working on it, and he goes, all right, from the top, tell me how that thing got on this base. And we started talking. And he was upset. And I thought I was going to pee, man. I tell you, he scared me to death. And but I got to talk to him, and he's a really nice guy. And that sounds so strange. 4-star general, had the nuclear might of the planet to vaporize the world, and you go, he's a really nice guy if you just understand him, you know. So anyhow, he was nice, and he sent me to out of Wright-Patterson, my rocket, myself, and a couple other people, Colonel, got on a C-141 Starlifter, and we were sent to White Sands, New Mexico. Now we're going to fly this thing. So it gets a little bit interesting. I was very lucky, and I guess somebody in the military really got something right for a change. This colonel is more than not administrative colonel. He is a rocket propulsion expert and a full colonel. So he understands things, and I don't have to take all day explaining. I started telling him about the engine. And he goes, you built what? I said, a fusion containment engine. And he goes, you're kidding. I said, come on back here. So we're in the plane, we're back here, and we get in the bay, and we open the, now slide the panels back. He looks at it and goes, oh, God, you know. And I said, he said, how old are you? I go, 17. He goes, going on at 92. So he said, that's incredible. He said, how many people know about this? I said, well, that man that scared me to death named Lemay, and you, and I don't know who else, congressman. He goes, a congressman? Oh, God. He said, son, you're in a lot of trouble. I said, what? I just built an engine. He goes, yeah, but you don't know. If we get to White Sands and a black jet shows up, look for people coming off of, they'll be wearing black suits with mirror sunglasses, and they are people coming from DOD. And I went, what in God's name is DOD? You know? And he goes, Department of Defense. Don't ever trust anybody that comes from a place called DOD. So anyway, we get there. We're there for a few hours at White Sands. We're getting the missile unloaded, and we're in the hangar. Here comes a black DC-9, and it lands. Outsteps these people in black suits with mirror sunglasses. Long before Men in Black. So one guy stepped off with him, and he looked different. He was in a little khaki outfit, and he was a small, frail guy, but I recognized who he was because Warner von Braun told me about this guy. I knew Warner since I was 12 years old. All these rockets are built. So this guy came up to me, and his name is Dr. Arthur Rudolph. Ever heard of him? He is the chief senior architect of the Saturn V engines of the Apollo space program. He came over in Operation Paperclip with Warner von Braun. He was with von Braun at Peenemünde. But let me tell you what a real sweetheart this little guy is. On May 24th, 1985, he was deported back to Munich, Germany by the Mossad, the Secret Service of Israel. There he was placed in a jail in Munich, Germany till he died. He killed 100,000 Czechoslovakian Jews in metalworks in Peenemünde when they were building the V-2 rockets. He'd hang them from rafters. You make one mistake on one engine and it'll hang you. He fed them sawdust and water so the water would expand the sawdust, and he'd keep working until he died.